Michael Doran, Senior Fellow and Director, Center for Peace and Security in the Middle East, Hudson Institute, United States.
Ask you about relations with the Azerbaijanis of Iran. You recently made some very interesting statements about your concern for the Azerbaijanis, both at home and beyond your borders. You've made some statements here about the power of the Turkish-Azerbaijani relationship. I can see how, as this alliance with Turkey and Azerbaijan develops, it can bring great benefits to Azerbaijanis beyond your borders. It can bring great benefits, I think, to my own country. I'm not sure that the people running the country recognize that. But if you could talk about any of that, how you see that developing, the relationship with the Azerbaijanis beyond your borders developing, I'd be very interested. And secondly, I wonder if I just was struck by your comments just now about the peace process being stalled, but you also said you're negotiating with Russia about the Zengezur corridor. Can you imagine that proceeding, the Zengezur corridor, without the peace agreement with Armenia? And what do the Russians want in return? Thank you.
Thank you. You know, to answer, how to say, comprehensively to your question, I need to go a little bit back. Right after the Second Karabakh War, Azerbaijan and Turkey was advocating for a broad regional cooperation, including connectivity projects, but not only. Therefore, this formula 3+3 was introduced. That means Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, South Caucasus, and Turkey, Iran, and Russia. Despite the fact that post-war situation led to the creation of the Joint Monitoring Center in Agdam, Turkish and Russian Joint Monitoring Center, that meant that actually these two countries of the region will play a role in the future regional configuration. Despite that during the Second Karabakh War and after Second Karabakh War, we didn't see any activity of Iranian representatives. We just said that we need to have an inclusive scenario. Therefore, Iran was invited and Georgia was invited. Georgia has reservations because they said that they cannot participate in the platform where Russia is participating because of situation in the separatist provinces in Georgia. And Iran supported that, and we considered it as a good sign that we will finally come together and we will address important issues, including corridors, because all of us are interested in those corridors. Because if you look now at the map, you'll see that especially taking into account what we were talking about earlier, the need for additional cargoes, we need to have additional routes. When we started to advocate for Zengezur corridor, Russian-Ukrainian war hasn't started yet. And transit through traditional routes from China to Europe was not blocked. Now, situation is different, and the routes through Caspian and also through Zengezur has special importance. So it could be a win-win situation for every country because part of this railroad eventually will enter Iran through city of Julfa, where there is a railroad connection between Iran and Azerbaijani exclave Nakhchivan. And also Armenia will be engaged, so Armenia will eventually have a railroad connection with Iran, which they don't have and will never have, because geography of Armenian-Iranian border and necessity to build tunnels will make this railroad cost maybe minimum $3 to $5 billion US dollars. Who is going to invest in this project? No one. The only way for Armenia to have railroad connection with Iran is through us. The only way for Armenia to have railroad connection with Russia is through us, because traditional road through separatist Abkhazia is blocked, and Georgia government is not willing to open it, and it is natural, we understand it. So it is in Armenian interest to have this corridor more than in our interest, because with respect to our connections with Turkey, we use Baku-Tbilisi cars, we use Georgian seaports. With respect to communication with Nakhchivan, we use Iranian territory. So Nakhchivan has a border with Turkey. We can have connection through Georgia, Turkey, Nakhchivan. Therefore, we suggested this 3+3, taking into account what all these advantages. And of course, for us, we will have connection to Nakhchivan by railroad and by highway. But unfortunately, it got stuck because, unfortunately, the recent steps and actions undertaken by some Iranian officials are absolutely counterproductive. And we cannot understand the origin of this dissatisfaction. On one hand, everybody must be satisfied that the long-lasting standoff between Azerbaijan and Armenia came to an end. So this means that there will be regional stability and potentially cooperation. To be unhappy about that, we do not understand what are the geopolitical reasons for that. During the times of occupation, Iranian military forces never held any military training on the border with Azerbaijan, which was occupied. They could have made it. 132 kilometers of Azerbaijani border was under occupation. And this is a border of Azerbaijan and Iran. And why didn't they held military training on that border? Iranian officials, including very, very high-ranking personalities, say that Armenian territorial integrity is a red line for Iran. Why none of them said the same about us? For 30 years, our territory was under occupation. Did anyone hear from Iranian officials that Azerbaijan's territorial integrity is a red line? No. These are the questions which Azerbaijani people ask. It's not only me who asks this question, but every Azerbaijani person who cares about his country asks this question, and we cannot get an answer. Therefore, all what is happening now between Iran and Azerbaijan was not generated by us. We only are responding, and we will respond to any kind of anti-Azerbaijani step, whether it's words or actions. And we had to organize military training on the Iranian border in order to demonstrate that we are not afraid of them. And we tell them that we are not afraid. And we will do everything in order to protect our lifestyle, secular development of Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijanis, including Azerbaijanis in Iran. They are part of our nation. I can give you another example. We have 340 schools in Azerbaijan where there is lessons in Russian language. We have 10 Georgian schools in Azerbaijan. In Georgia, there are 116 Azerbaijani schools, though Azerbaijanis in Georgia, something like 200, 300,000, 116. There are Armenian schools in Iran, but there is no Azerbaijani school in Iran. How that can happen? And if someone says that this is interference into internal affairs, we absolutely reject that. This is not interference in internal affairs. Azerbaijan's foreign policy is very clear. We never interfere into internal affairs of any country. But this is part of society which has the same ethnic origin, speaks the same language, and has the same values with us. How can we be indifferent to that? Why they cannot learn their language at schools? They are losing the language. You know, the problem is why we're raising it. Because Azerbaijani language, which is spoken by Azerbaijanis in Iran, is losing its literature component. It becomes like a language which they speak at home. And this issue must be addressed. And I raise this issue also because this is of concern to us. I hope that pro-Armenian actions of Iranian government will not damage the very fragile peace. And I think there'll be more understanding about the necessity to take into account the feelings of Azerbaijanis and our interests. And one last thing, to illustrate that it was not us who generated this situation. I worked with 3 previous Iranian presidents, with President Khatami, President Ahmadinejad, and President Rouhani. And never, during all these years, we had something similar to what we have now. Never there have been any military training, 2 trainings within several months on our border with words full of hatred and threats to Azerbaijan. Never. So it means that it was not us who is a generator of this situation. We want this situation to end sooner than later. We want peace and friendly relations with all our neighbors, but at the same time, we will always defend our dignity, our independence, and our lifestyle, and we will not allow any foreign player to impose its standards and its will on our government and our people.